Welcome to Chronicles by Candlelight. Subscribing helps the channel grow and lets you stay updated with every new video, so you never miss the content you enjoy. You are listening to Fracture. Episode 12. First test. I was exhausted. I didn't have an ounce of strength left to put into my stance. My legs were cramping. And as for my spiritual pressure, there was no breakthrough in sight. I felt the burn in my abs and hamstrings. Was this the amount of strain Zach Champion went through every time he tapped into his spiritual pressure? There had to be another way. The thought didn't last long in my mind when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Jasper. It looked like he had messaged last night too. "Reagan, send a thumbs up if you're still alive," he said. I proceeded to do just that. He replied with a gif with a cat returning the thumbs up. "I hope you don't mind, I added you to a group chat," he said. He'd named the chat Friends with a W instead of R. It was at times impossible to take him seriously. It looked like I hadn't missed much last night, only Jasper spamming paragraphs about how excited he was to start the school year. The others, Zuri, Luca and Mia, were not as enthusiastic. The last message was a reminder from Jasper. "Groups 2, 5 and 10 should bring a change of clothes. Sports wear." Group? I didn't remember being put in any groups. I quickly pulled up my online student portal and checked my timetable. Group 10, it said. I had to be in the performance hall soon. I checked the time, and if I didn't leave now I was going to be late. I shoved my phone back into my pocket and took off toward the dorms. I grabbed a random set of clothes loose enough to move in and stuffed them under my arm before heading back out. Then, I made my way across campus as fast as I could, checking my phone's map between glances. Campus seemed to get bigger with each passing moment. After a few wrong turns, I finally spotted the building the performance hall was supposed to be located in. The doors stood wide open. I stepped through and immediately looked for the exact room. There was a sign posted near the entrance to one of the halls that read, "Group 10, Performance Test." I stopped. "Test," I muttered. This was my first official day, and they were already throwing something like that at us. The doors gave way to a massive gym hall with a high ceiling. The area was wide enough to hold half the first years. A corner of the room was set aside for working out with impressive-looking gear glimmering under the lights. Other students had already gathered. Each of them stood in small circles, talking and quietly trying to figure things out. "Listen up," I heard someone say. The voice belonged to a guy near the opposite end of the hall, surrounded by a small group of students. Not a large crowd, but enough to form a clear circle around him. He was thin, almost wiry, with a crooked nose. He talked with a lisp and had a voice obnoxious enough that it cut through the other chatter. What stood out the most to me was the expression in his eyes. Dead, like nothing around him really mattered. "I'll make this simple," he said. "If you're smart, you'll edge by in this group, and at the last moment scale into a higher one. What is the point in struggling each week, competing with really strong guys in the other groups? I'll stay at the top of this group, and when the time is right, I'll gather enough points to move up to the bottom of group 9. A few murmurs spread through the room. "I repeat that process," he said calmly. "Again and again." He looked around the room slowly, his gaze passing over people. "If anyone here thinks they can stop me," he said, "you're welcome to try." I stared at him. The guy stood there like he had already decided how everything would play out. Like the rest of us were just pieces waiting to fall into place. The whole thing sounded stupid. The whole point was to get better and overtake the person ahead of you, not edge. He had caught me staring. "Got something to say?" he asked. A few heads turned in my direction. I broke eye contact and looked past him like he wasn't even there. Silence stretched for a second. Then he started walking toward me. I watched him approach through the corner of my eye until he stopped a few steps away from me. "You deaf?" he asked. The fact that I didn't look at him seemed to annoy him more. He had taken another step closer when two men walked in. Both men held clipboards in their hands, and I recognized one of them to be Charles Wagner. The second man was tall and lanky, with shoulders that slouched slightly, like he hadn't slept in days. His hair sat unevenly, and there were faint shadows under his eyes that made him look permanently exhausted. The crooked-nosed guy in front of me clicked his tongue under his breath, stepped back, and walked away without another word. I shifted my attention to the two men at the front of the room. "My name is Lee Gables," he said. His voice was not exactly monotone, but close enough. "I am your homeroom instructor." He continued, glanced down at his clipboard briefly, then back at us. Charles Wagner stepped forward next and introduced himself, but left out his connections to Dr. Slade Baldwin. Lee Gables spoke again. "Today's session will be a performance analysis," he said. "We will assess your strength, speed, agility, ability usage, and teamwork." He paused for a fraction of a second, then said, "This evaluation will be used to determine your current combat prowess." There was a slight shift in the atmosphere. Conversations died out completely, and an ominous foreboding settled on the floor. Combat prowess? I already knew where I stood. Zach Champion made it painfully clear when he said I had no tier. But I intended to grow before the year was up. I had to. Professor Gables glanced down at his clipboard again, then back up at the group. At minimum, every student here is expected to qualify as a brawler, he said. So this is to find out which of the 3 brawler tiers you are. There are 3 tiers. Zach hadn't mentioned that. Tier 1, he said, are adrenaline brawlers. These individuals rely on instinct and heightened physical response under pressure. Their performance is inconsistent, but their output increases in high-stress situations. Tier 2 are rhythmic brawlers. These individuals display control over their movements. Their actions follow consistent patterns, and they maintain stability during engagements. And Tier 3 are strategic brawlers. These individuals demonstrate foresight, adaptability, and decision-making during combat. Their actions are deliberate, and their efficiency is high. Silence followed. I felt a small weight settle in my chest. There were around 50 students in Group 10. By the second week, it was mandatory I challenged one of them. How was I supposed to fare against a Tier 2 or 3 brawler? Professor Gables wasn't done with his announcement. It goes without saying, he added, that any student who fails to meet Tier 1 standards will be removed from the university. The room exploded. What? Someone asked. Wait, what do you mean removed? You can't make that call. Voices overlapped instantly. People expressed their disbelief and qualms with the new information. I looked towards Charles Wagner. He was the secretary to the founder of the combat department. If anyone here knew better, it was him. He was standing there with his clipboard, maintaining a neutral expression, like nothing unusual had just been said. The noise continued for a few seconds before Professor Gables raised his hand. A faint smile touched his face. There are changing rooms to the side of the hall, he said. Prepare yourselves. Your evaluation begins in 10 minutes. I changed into the slimmest shirt I had, and my shorts weren't much better. They hung awkwardly, and I could feel a slight draft every time I moved. I was never big on sports, so I lacked the attire. Around me, everyone else looked prepared. They wore tight-fitting performance shirts, compression gear, and lightweight athletic pants and sneakers. I glanced down at my worn and faded shoes, and couldn't help feeling out of place. Back out in the main hall, Charles Wagner stepped forward. Form 2 groups, he said. Ranks 450 to 475 with me. A group gathered near him. Ranks 476 to 500, Gables said. With me. I was 500. I moved with the rest of the lower-ranked students and joined Gables' group. 25 of us in total. Group 2 will begin with speed and endurance, Gables said, then turned and started walking. We followed. He led us across the gym floor and toward a hallway at the far end. The noise faded as we moved deeper inside, replaced by a quieter, more tense atmosphere. We stopped in front of a set of doors. Gables pushed them open, and inside was an indoor track. It stretched around the room in an oval, marked clearly with lanes and distance indicators along the sides. It looked professional. A table sat near the entrance with small numbered tags littered on it. Gables walked over, set his clipboard down, and pulled out a manual timer. You will each take a number and paste it on your shirts, he said. I stepped forward with the others and grabbed one at random. I was number 11. I peeled the backing and stuck it to the front of my shirt. Then Gables raised the timer slightly. I will record your times. We will begin with an 800-meter run, he continued, followed by a 200-meter sprint. We all got into position. I was positioned near the outer lanes, looking over my shoulders at 10 more students looking forward with tense precision. On my signal, Gables said. I fixed my eyes ahead. Go. The 800 meters started slow. I settled into a rhythm, doing my best to maintain a steady level of exertion and motion. And for a short stretch, it worked. My breathing stayed controlled, and I wasn't falling behind either. I stayed with the group through the first half of the lap. Then the shift started. It felt so sudden I couldn't keep up. The others seemed to move up a gear that, had I known it was coming, it wouldn't have made a difference. I tried to match them, but it cost me immediately. As my momentum climbed, my legs started to feel heavier, and the rhythm I had built broke apart like a piece of crumble cookie. By the end of the first lap, the gap was widening, and as the second lap went on, my fate was obvious. Every step felt heavier than the last. My lungs tightened fast. I tried to correct my pace again, but it only drained me. I could feel my body losing efficiency with every turn of the track. By the time I entered the final lap, I was last. There was another kid only meters ahead, who didn't seem built for such a massive strain. His shirt seemed to swallow a skinnier frame than myself. And he inched further. I too pushed. As I got into the final push, the others had already reached the finish line. It seemed like it was nothing to them. My breathing fell apart in the final stretch. There was nothing left in my body to use. I could only walk. As I crossed the line last, I immediately dropped. My legs stung like someone set a colony of fire ants on them. It would be a miracle if I managed to get back up, I thought. In this moment of failure, I noticed that the difference between myself and the others was night and day.